The ship was dying. Captain could feel it in the way the metal groaned around her, in the flickering lights that struggled to stay alive, in the cold that crept through the broken hull like a hungry beast. She pulled herself up from the floor where the crash had thrown her. Blood ran down the side of her face, warm and sticky, but she did not have time to worry about herself. Her crew needed her. Her passengers needed her. "Report," she called out, her voice rough from the smoke that filled the air. "Anyone who can hear me, report." For a long moment there was only silence. Then voices began to answer, weak and scared, coming from different parts of the broken ship. "Navigator Sora here. My leg is broken, but I am alive." "This is Minu from engineering. The engine room is completely destroyed. We are not flying again. Medical bay is gone. I am pulling survivors from the wreckage." That was Jinnah, the ship's doctor. Closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The Starlight Wanderer had been a simple transport vessel, carrying 12 civilians from the outer colonies to the central worlds. They were teachers, farmers, scientists. None of them were soldiers. None of them had asked for this. The pirates had come out of nowhere. 3 small attack ships against 1 unarmed transport. The battle, if it could be called that, had lasted only minutes. The Starlight Wanderer had tried to run, but their engines were too slow. The pirates had torn through their shields like paper. They had been aiming for the cargo hold, trying to disable the ship so they could board and take whatever they wanted. But they had hit the engine core instead. The explosion had thrown the Starlight Wanderer off course, sending them spinning toward the nearest moon. The pirates, seeing that their prize was now a burning wreck falling from the sky, had turned and fled. They had left the to die. Made her way through the twisted corridors of her ship. Emergency lights cast everything in a dim red glow. She stepped over broken panels and sparking wires. The artificial gravity was failing in some sections, making her float for a moment before crashing back down. She found Sora in the navigation room, sitting against the wall with her leg bent at a bad angle. The young navigator's face was pale, her breathing fast and shallow. "Captain," Sora said, trying to smile, "I do not think we will make our delivery on time." Knelt beside her. "We will worry about schedules later. Right now, I need you to tell me where we are." Sora pointed to the one screen that still worked. It showed their position, a small dot on the edge of known space. "We crashed on the 4th moon of Prime. The locals call it the Burning Eye." Felt her heart sink. She knew that name. Everyone in this sector knew that name. The Burning Eye was a death world. Its atmosphere was filled with toxic gases that would kill most species in minutes. Volcanic storms swept across its surface every few hours. The rain was not water but acid that could eat through metal. Nothing lived there. Nothing could live there. "How long can the ship protect us?" asked. Sora checked her readings. "The hull is cracked in 17 places. Our air recyclers are working at 30%. I give us 2 days, maybe 3, before the atmosphere gets inside." 2 days, stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see the landscape of their new prison. Black rock stretched in every direction. In the distance, a volcano threw fire into the orange sky. Rivers of lava cut across the ground like glowing veins. "Did you send the distress signal?" she asked. "I sent it," Sora said. "But Captain, we are in the dead zone. No patrol ships come here. No traders, no military vessels, nothing. The signal will travel for days before it reaches anyone." "And when it does?" Sora was quiet for a moment. "The Burning Eye is a Class 7 death world. The Galactic Rescue Authority does not send teams to anything above Class 4. It is against their rules. Too dangerous. Too many rescuers have died trying." Understood what Sora was not saying. Help was not coming. They had sent their cry into the darkness, but no one would answer. No one could answer. She left Sora and continued through the ship, checking on the survivors one by one. Jinnah had set up a temporary medical area in what used to be the passenger lounge. The room was crowded with injured, lying on makeshift beds made from seat cushions and emergency blankets. "How many did we lose?" asked quietly. Jinnah's hands were covered in blood. She had been working without rest since the crash. 4 died in the crash, 2 more in the last hour. We have 12 left, including the crew. 12? They had started with 18. Felt the weight of those lost souls pressing down on her shoulders. "The seriously wounded?" she asked. "Old has internal bleeding. I stopped it for now, but without proper equipment I cannot save him. Little Bora has burns on 40% of her body. She needs a healing tank, not bandages. And Pilot has not woken up since the crash." Looked at the faces around her. A grandmother who had been traveling to see her, a young student going to the Central Academy, a farmer who had never left his home world before this trip. They had trusted her to keep them safe. They had paid for tickets on her ship, believing they would reach their destination. Now they were going to die on a moon that even the galaxy had abandoned. "Captain," Minyu's voice came through her communicator. "You need to come to the communication room. Now." Made her way to the small room at the front of the ship. Minyu was there, along with the ship's youngest crew member. They were both staring at a screen. "What is it?" asked. Minyu pointed to the display. "Our distress signal. It is going out just like we planned, but look at this." The screen showed a map of the space around them. Their signal was represented as a growing circle, expanding outward at the speed of light. Could see the nearest stations marked on the map. The closest one was 4 days away at signal speed. "I know all this," said. "What am I supposed to see?" Here, Minyu zoomed in on a section of space that seemed empty. "There is a ship here. It is not on any official charts. It is not broadcasting any identification. But it is there and it is close, only 18 hours away." "Pirates?" asked, her voice hard. "No, the signature is wrong. Pirates use fast, small ships. This thing is military grade, heavy armor, powerful engines, nothing like anything in the galactic database." Spoke up, his voice shaking. "I ran the signature through every record we have. Only one match came up. Captain, that ship belongs to the humans." The room went silent. Felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the failing heat systems. Humans, Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They came from a world called Earth, a planet so hostile that it made the burning eye look like a vacation spot. Their world had extreme temperatures, violent weather, dangerous animals, and gravity that would crush most species. The fact that humans had not only survived there, but had built a civilization was considered one of the great mysteries of the universe. When humans had first made contact with the galactic community, many species had been terrified. Surely, creatures from such a terrible world must be monsters. Surely, they must be violent, savage, and cruel. The truth was more complicated. Humans were not evil. They did not attack without reason or conquer for sport. But they were strange. They kept coming to places where no one else would go. They volunteered for missions that were considered suicide. They seemed to have no fear. "Why would a human ship be out here?" asked. Minyu shook his head. "I do not know. They are on patrol, maybe, or exploring. Humans like to go places that do not want them." "If they receive our signal," began. "They might come," Minyu finished. "Humans are strange about distress calls. They answer them, all of them, even the ones everyone else ignores." Looked at the map. The human ship was so close, relatively speaking. If they received the signal and decided to respond, they could reach the burning eye in less than a day. But would they come? Would anyone really fly into a Class 7 death world to save 12 strangers? "Keep the signal going," ordered. "Maximum power, and add a message. Tell them exactly what we are facing. The atmosphere, the storms, all of it. If they are going to come, they should know what they are flying into." She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "And Minyu, do not tell the passengers about the human ship. Not yet. I do not want to give them hope that might be false. Walked back to the medical area. The wounded were sleeping, their faces twisted with pain even in their dreams. Old's breathing was getting worse. Little Bora was crying softly, calling for her mother. Sat down in a corner and let her head fall back against the wall. Through a crack in the hull, she could see the orange sky of the burning eye. A volcanic storm was building in the distance, a wall of fire and ash moving slowly toward them. Help was not coming. That was what everyone would say. That was what the rules said. Class 7 death worlds were off limits. The risk was too great. The galaxy did not waste lives on impossible rescues. But somewhere out in the darkness, a human ship was moving through the stars. And humans did not follow the galaxy's rules. She closed her eyes and, for the first time since the crash, allowed herself to hope. Maybe someone would answer after all. The patrol ship Iron Will moved through the darkness between stars. It was not a beautiful ship. Its hull was from 100 missions into places that did not want visitors. Its engines hummed with the tired patience of a machine that had seen too much. But it was strong. It was reliable, and its crew would follow it anywhere. Captain Ho sat in his command chair, reading reports on a small screen. The mission was simple: patrol the outer sectors, watch for pirate activity, report anything unusual. It was boring work, but boring was good. Boring meant no one was dying. Captain, the voice belonged to his communications officer, a young woman named. She had been with the crew for 2 years now, and Ho trusted her completely. We have something. He looked up. Pirates. No, sir, a distress signal, very faint. It has been traveling for about 6 hours. Ho set down his screen. Origin. The burning eye, 4th moon of Prime. The bridge went quiet. Every human on the ship knew what those words meant. The burning eye was famous, or maybe infamous was a better word. It was one of the most hostile moons in the sector, a place where the ground burned and the sky rained poison. Play it, Ho ordered. Pressed a button. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in the common galactic language. It was the voice of a woman, tired and scared but trying to hide it. This is captain of the transport ship Starlight Wanderer. We have crashed on the 4th moon of Prime. Our ship is badly damaged. We have 12 survivors, many of them wounded. Our air supply will fail in approximately 2 days. There was a pause in the recording. When the voice returned, it was heavier with emotion. I know this is a Class 7 world. I know the rescue rules say that no one should come here, but I am asking anyway. If anyone can hear this, please help us. We are not soldiers. We are just ordinary people who wanted to go home. Please, we do not want to die here. The message ended. The bridge remained silent. Ho stood up slowly. He walked to the front of the bridge, where the main window showed the endless stars. Somewhere out there, 12 people were waiting for an answer that would probably never come. How far? He asked. 18 hours at maximum speed, said Pilot, a broad-shouldered man with gentle eyes. He had been flying for 20 years. Maybe 16 if I push the engines. The conditions on the moon. Pulled up the data on her screen. Surface temperature averages around 45 degrees. The atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. Toxic too, dangerous to most galactic species. Volcanic storms every 4 to 6 hours. Acid rain during the storm periods. And for us. Paused, uncomfortable. The temperature is high but survivable. The atmosphere would require masks, but we could breathe filtered air. The acid rain would hurt exposed skin, but our suits would protect us. The volcanic storms are the biggest danger, but we have dealt with worse. Ho nodded slowly. The who had sent the distress call probably did not understand what she was asking. For her people, the burning eye was certain death. For humans, it was a hard day at work. Has anyone else responded to the signal? He asked. No, sir. I have been monitoring all frequencies. The nearest galactic station acknowledged receipt of the signal, but they have already sent a message saying that rescue is not possible. Too dangerous. Against regulations. They are just going to let them die. Did not answer. She did not need to. They both knew how the galaxy worked. Rules were rules. Class 7 meant no rescue. It did not matter that 12 innocent people were sitting on that moon, watching their air run out, waiting for help that would never come. It did not matter to the galaxy, but it mattered to Ho. He turned to face his crew. The Iron Will carried 15 humans, each of them volunteers for duty in the outer sectors. They had all signed up knowing the dangers. They had all made peace with the risks long ago. I am not going to order anyone to do this, Ho said. What I am about to suggest is not part of our mission. It is not required by any regulation. If we do this, we will be putting ourselves in danger for people we have never met. He looked at each face on the bridge, Young with her quick mind, Steady at the pilot station, Engineer with her grease-stained hands, Navigator Wu with his calm eyes, Weapons Officer Jin, who had not fired a shot in anger for 3 years. There are 12 on that moon. In 2 days they will be dead. The galaxy has decided that saving them is too risky. But we are humans. We come from a death world ourselves. That moon down there, the one that scares everyone else, it is just another Tuesday for us. He paused. I am going to ask for volunteers. Raise your hand if you are willing to go down there. Every hand on the bridge went up. Not one person hesitated. Not one person looked away. Ho felt something warm spread through his chest. He had served with many crews over the years. He had never served with a better one. Set course for the Burning Eye, maximum speed. Yes, Captain. Hands were already moving across his controls. We will be there in 16 hours. Send a reply to that distress signal. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on. Smiled, the first real smile Ho had seen on her face all day. What should I tell them about who we are? Ho thought about it. They had probably heard stories about humans. Most of those stories were exaggerated or just wrong. They would be expecting monsters, not rescuers. Tell them the truth, he said. Tell them that the human patrol ship Iron Will has received their distress call. Tell them we are on our way, and tell them, he paused, looking for the right words. Tell them that where we come from, we do not leave people behind, not ever. Began typing the message. Ho turned back to the window, watching the stars blur as the Iron Will jump to maximum speed. He thought about the on that moon. They were probably terrified, not just of dying, but of the idea that humans might come to save them. In the minds of most galactic species, humans were barely civilized. They were creatures who had evolved in hell and carried that hell with them wherever they went. They did not understand. They could not understand. Humans were not products of a death world. They were survivors of one. Every human alive carried the memories of ancestors who had faced impossible odds and refused to quit. Every human had, written in their very blood, the knowledge that giving up was never an option. That was why human ships patrolled sectors that other species avoided. That was why humans took jobs that everyone else considered suicide. It was not because they were brave, though many of them were. It was because they simply could not imagine doing anything else. A life was a life. A cry for help was a cry for help. And when someone needed saving, you did not stop to calculate the odds. You went. You tried. You gave everything you had. That was what it meant to be human. In the engine room was already pushing the power systems to their limits. She had grown up in a mining colony where the air was thin and the ground shook with earthquakes every day. The burning eye did not scare her. In the cargo bay, other crew members were preparing equipment. Environmental suits rated for extreme conditions. Medical supplies for treating species very different from humans. Cutting tools in case they needed to get through wreckage. Food and water for the survivors. In her small room, finished sending the message. She sat back and thought about the voice she had heard in the distress call. Captain had sounded so alone, so sure that no one would answer. "Someone is coming," said softly, even though no one could hear her. "We are coming, just hold on a little longer." Ho spent the next several hours preparing his team. He chose 5 crew members to go down to the surface with him, would come for her medical training, would come to help with any technical problems, would stay with the ship, keeping it in orbit and ready for a quick escape if things went wrong. "Remember," Ho told his team, "they are fragile compared to us. They will be scared, hurt, and confused. Some of them have probably never seen a human in person before. We need to be careful with them. Gentle. They have been through enough already." "What if they are afraid of us?" asked. "Then we show them they do not need to be. We show them who we really are, not the monsters from the stories, just people who could not sit by while others suffered." The hours passed. The iron will race through space, eating up the distance between them and the burning eye. On the bridge, Ho watched the moon grow larger on the sensors. Even from orbit it looked angry. Red and orange clouds swirled across its surface. The glow of lava could be seen from space. "We have entered orbit," reported, "scanning for the crash site now." The sensors swept across the surface, cutting through the toxic clouds. After a few minutes, they found what they were looking for. "There," said, pointing to his screen, "a shipwreck on the northern plain. Life signs are faint but present. I count 12 inside." 12, the same number as the distress call. They were all still alive. "Any response to our message?" Ho asked. Shook her head. "Their communication systems might be damaged. They may not know we are here." "Then we will have to introduce ourselves in person. Prepare the landing shuttle. We are going down." Ho took one last look at the burning eye through the bridge window. The moon that the galaxy feared was right below them, waiting to test them. Volcanic storms were building in the north. Acid clouds gathered in the south. The very ground seemed to pulse with heat and poison. It was the kind of place that killed everything that tried to survive there. Everything except humans. "Let us go save some lives," Ho said, and walked off the bridge toward the shuttle bay. Behind him, his crew followed without a moment of doubt. They were humans. And they had a job to do. The shuttle shook as it dropped through the atmosphere of the burning eye. Outside the small windows, the world was fire. Orange clouds rushed past, thick with poison. Lightning cracked across the sky, not white like on most worlds, but red and angry. Ho gripped the safety bar above his head and watched his team. They were calm, focused, ready, was checking her medical bag for the 10th time, was running final tests on her cutting equipment. The 3 other team members, Young Woo, Strong Min, and Quiet, were strapping on their protective gear. "Entering the lower atmosphere," said the pilot's voice over the speaker. "Visibility is dropping. Volcanic ash everywhere. Hold on tight." The shuttle bucked and jumped as volcanic winds slammed into it from every direction. For a normal species, this would be terrifying. For the humans inside, it felt like a rough boat ride. Through breaks in the clouds, Ho caught glimpses of the surface below. Black rock stretched in every direction, broken by rivers of glowing lava. Steam rose from cracks in the ground. In the distance, a volcano erupted, throwing fire high into the orange sky. "There," pointed, "I can see the crash site." The Starlight Wanderer lay broken on a flat plain between 2 lava flows. It had once been a beautiful ship, Ho could tell. Now it was a twisted mess of metal, half buried in volcanic ash. Smoke rose from a dozen places along its hull. "Landing zone looks clear about 200 meters from the wreck," the pilot reported. "Any closer and we risk the ground giving way. The volcanic activity has made everything unstable." "That is fine," Ho said. "We can walk 200 meters." The shuttle touched down with a heavy thud. The landing gear sank slightly into the soft ash. Red warning lights flickered across every panel, telling them what they already knew. The air outside was poison. The ground was hot enough to burn through standard boots. The radiation levels were above normal. "Masks on," Ho ordered. "Suit sealed, check your partner." Each team member checked the person next to them, making sure no gaps existed in their protection. The suits were heavy, designed for the worst conditions humans might face. They could handle this. They had been built for this. "Ready," Captain said. Ho nodded and hit the button to open the door. The heat hit them first. It was like opening an oven. Even through their suits, they could feel it pressing against them. The air smelled of sulfur and burning rock, filtered through their masks but still noticeable. "Move out," Ho ordered. "Stay together, watch your step." They stepped out onto the surface of the burning eye. The ground crunched under their boots, black volcanic rock mixed with ash and glass. With every step, small clouds of dust rose around their feet. Ho led the way toward the crashed ship. Behind him, his team spread out in a protective formation. They moved quickly but carefully, aware that the ground could give way at any moment. "Radiation is higher than the readings suggested," reported, checking her scanner. "Still within safe limits for short-term exposure, but we do not want to stay longer than necessary." "Understood, let us make this fast." They were halfway to the ship when the ground beneath Wu's feet cracked. He stumbled, and for a terrible moment, it looked like he would fall into the glowing fissure that had opened up. But Min grabbed his arm and pulled him back to solid ground. "Thanks," Wu said, his voice shaking slightly. "Watch where you walk," Min replied. "The surface is unstable." They continued forward more carefully now. The crashed ship grew larger as they approached. Up close, the damage was even worse than it had looked from the air. The hull was torn open in multiple places. The engine section was completely destroyed. It was a miracle anyone had survived. "I am detecting life signs inside," said, holding up her medical scanner. 12 clustered in the center of the ship. Their vital signs are weak but stable. "Any way in?" Ho asked. "Study the wreckage. There is a cargo door on the far side. It looks jammed, but I can cut through it if needed." "Do it." They made their way around the ship, stepping over debris and avoiding pools of acid rain that had collected in the dips of the metal. Pulled out her cutting tool and began working on the door. Sparks flew as she sliced through the jammed mechanism. Inside the ship, heard the noise and felt fear grip her heart. The sound of metal being cut could mean anything: rescue or threat, hope or disaster. "Everyone stay calm," she told the survivors gathered in the passenger lounge. "We do not know who is out there." "Maybe it is the pirates," Old said weakly from his makeshift bed. "Maybe they came back to finish the job." "Pirates would not land on this moon," Sora said. She was sitting against the wall, her broken leg wrapped in bandages. "No one lands on this moon." The cutting sound stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Then the cargo door groaned and fell inward with a heavy crash. Through the opening, saw figures stepping into the ship. They were tall, wearing heavy suits covered in ash and dust. They moved with a confidence that seemed impossible in this environment. One of them stepped forward and removed their mask. Felt her breath catch. She was looking at a human, a real human. He had dark hair cut short and his face was marked with lines of exhaustion, but his eyes were kind, warm, not the eyes of a monster at all. "Captain?" the human asked. His accent was strange, but his words were clear. Could not speak, she could only nod. "I am Captain Ho of the human patrol ship Iron Will. We received your distress signal. We are here to take you home." For a long moment, no one moved. The survivors stared at the humans in their midst, unable to process what they were seeing. Monsters from a planet of nightmares, standing in their ruined ship, offering help. "You came," finally managed to say. "They said no one would come. They said it was too dangerous." Ho smiled, and the expression transformed his tired face. "We are humans, Captain. Dangerous is what we do before breakfast." He turned and gestured to his team. Start checking the wounded. See if you can stabilize the ship's power so we have more light. Everyone else start preparing for transport. The humans moved with practiced efficiency. Knelt beside Old, already pulling medical equipment from her bag. She spoke gently to him in the common language, explaining what she was doing, asking about his pain. You came through that, Sara asked, pointing toward the open cargo door. Through it she could see the hellish landscape outside. A volcanic storm was building in the distance, a wall of fire and ash moving toward them. Yes, Ho said simply. But the air is poison. The ground burns. The storms could kill anything that moves. The air is filtered through our masks. The ground is hot, but our suits protect us. The storms are dangerous, but we have survived worse. Ho shrugged. This moon is hostile, but it is not impossible, not for us. Sara stared at him with wide eyes. Your world is truly as terrible as the stories say. Probably worse, actually. The stories never mention the mosquitoes. Sara did not know what mosquitoes were, but the casual way the human spoke about his home world sent a shiver down her spine. Finished her initial examination of the wounded. Captain, we have 3 critical patients. The elderly male has internal injuries that need immediate surgery. The young female has severe burns that require specialized treatment, and the pilot is in a coma, possibly from brain trauma. Can they be moved? Carefully, yes, but we need to go soon. The storm that is building will make transport dangerous even for us. Ho nodded. Start preparing the stretchers. We will carry them to the shuttle. Carry them? Asked. Through that, she pointed outside, where the wind was already picking up, throwing ash and embers into the air. Yes, our shuttle is 200 meters away. The ground between here and there is unstable but passable. We will carry those who cannot walk and guide those who can. But they cannot breathe your air. We cannot survive out there for even a minute. We have portable breathing units for all of you. They are designed for short-term use in toxic environments, not comfortable but effective. Looked at the humans preparing to carry her people through a volcanic wasteland. They moved without fear, without hesitation. They talked and even joked with each other as they worked. For them, this was not a nightmare. It was just another mission. Why? Asked suddenly. Why did you come? You did not have to. No one expected you to. You could have ignored our signal like everyone else. Ho stopped what he was doing and looked at her. For a moment his expression was serious. Captain, I come from a world that tried very hard to kill us. Predators hunted us. Diseases attacked us. The weather, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, everything tried to end our species before we even began. But we survived. We survived because we learned to work together, to help each other, to never leave anyone behind. He gestured at the wounded around them. These people needed help. We could provide it. The math was simple. Simple, repeated. You call risking your lives for strangers simple. I call it being human. The storm was getting closer. Through the cargo door, could see the wall of fire advancing across the plain. They had maybe 20 minutes before it reached them. Everyone, Ho called out. We move now, take the critical patients, help the walking wounded. Everyone stay together. If you get separated in the storm, do not panic. We will find you. The humans lifted the stretchers holding Old, little Bora, and Pilot. The patients looked terrified, their eyes wide as they were carried toward the door. But the humans held them steady, their voices calm and reassuring. You are going to be fine, told little Bora. I know it looks scary out there, but we will protect you, I promise. Bora, her face wrapped in bandages, managed a small nod. One by one, the survivors were fitted with breathing masks and guided toward the door. Helped Sara stand, supporting her weight as they moved. Ready? Ho asked. Looked at the human captain. Outside, the storm roared and the ground glowed with heat. It was the most dangerous thing she had ever faced. But somehow, standing next to these strange people from their strange world, She was not afraid. "Ready," she said. And together they walked into the fire. The world outside the crashed ship was worse than it imagined. The wind howled like a wounded animal, throwing ash and embers into her face. Even through the breathing mask the humans had given her, she could taste sulfur on her tongue. The heat pressed against her from all sides, making every breath a struggle. And they had 200 meters to cover. "Stay close," Ho shouted over the wind. "Follow my steps exactly. The ground looks solid, but there are weak spots everywhere." The humans formed a protective ring around the survivors. Ho led the way, testing each step before committing his weight. Behind him came the stretcher bearers, moving with incredible steadiness despite the storm raging around them. Walked in the middle of the group, one arm around Sora's waist. The navigator's broken leg made every step agony, but she refused to slow down. She knew as well as anyone that stopping meant dying. 20 meters to the first checkpoint," called out. She was checking her scanner constantly, watching for dangerous volcanic activity beneath their feet. A crack of red lightning split the sky, so close that felt her fur stand on end. One of the younger survivors screamed. Immediately, the human beside her placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "It is okay," the human said. His name was Wu, young and thin but calm as still water. "Lightning on this moon is not like lightning on other worlds. It is impressive, but the suits protect us. Just keep walking." The scared nodded and kept moving, trusting this strange who seemed so unbothered by the apocalypse happening around them. Walked beside the stretcher carrying little Bora. The child was crying silently, tears mixing with the burned salve on her face. Every few steps would lean down and say something to her, soft words that could not hear over the storm. "She is telling her a story," Sora said, noticing the tension. "About a princess who tamed a dragon. She has been telling it since we left the ship." Watched the human medic for a moment longer. His eyes never stopped scanning the child's vital signs on her portable monitor. But her voice never stopped either, keeping up a steady stream of gentle words that seemed to push back the fear. 50 meters, Ho called. "We are a quarter of the way there." The ground shook. Not a small tremble, but a violent jolt that threw several off their feet. The humans stayed standing through sheer force of will, their legs absorbing the shock like the roots of ancient trees. "Volcanic event 200 meters to our left," shouted. "The lava flow is shifting. We need to move faster." Through the swirling ash could see it. A new river of molten rock was pushing up from the ground, cutting across their path. If they did not reach the shuttle before it spread, they would be trapped. "Double time," Ho ordered. "Help the wounded, carry those who cannot keep up." Without hesitation, the humans acted. Min, the strongest of the group, lifted Old over his shoulder like the elderly weighed nothing, took another survivor by the arm and half-carried her forward. Felt herself being lifted. Ho had picked her up with one arm while keeping his other hand on Sora's shoulder, guiding her forward. "I can walk," protested. "You can walk faster if I carry you. Save your strength for when we reach the shuttle." She wanted to argue, but he was already moving. His stride was long and sure, eating up the distance that had seemed impossible just moments before. The lava flow crept closer, could feel its heat even from this distance, adding to the already unbearable temperature. The air shimmered and danced. Rocks cracked and exploded from the thermal stress. 100 meters, someone called. Stumbled, her foot had found one of the weak spots Ho had warned about, and the ground crumbled beneath her. She started to fall toward a glowing crack in the rock. Wu was there in an instant. He grabbed her arm with one hand while his other hand kept the stretcher with Bora stable. For a terrifying moment, both humans hung suspended over the crack, then was there, pulling them back to solid ground. "Thanks," breathed. "Watch your step," Wu replied, the same words Min had told him earlier. Despite everything, despite the fire and the poison and the death all around them, laughed. It was a small sound, almost lost in the storm, but heard it. And somehow, impossibly, it made her feel safer. 150 meters. The shuttle came into view through the ash clouds. It was a blocky, ugly thing, nothing like the elegant ships they built. But too, it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. The lava flow was spreading faster now. It cut off their original path, forcing them to angle toward the right. The ground there was less stable. With every step, cracks spread beneath their feet. "Keep moving," Ho shouted. "Do not stop for anything." Pilot, still unconscious on his stretcher, suddenly convulsed. His breathing mask had slipped, and he was inhaling the toxic air. Saw it immediately. "Hold the stretcher steady," she ordered. Without slowing their pace, she adjusted his mask and injected something into his arm. The convulsions stopped. His breathing stabilized. "How did you do that while walking through a volcanic storm?" Sora asked in amazement. "Practice," said simply. They were almost there. 50 meters, 40, 30. The ground gave way. It happened without warning. One moment they were running, the next, a section of rock simply collapsed, creating a gap 5 meters wide between them and the shuttle. The humans did not hesitate. Min, still carrying Old, took 3 running steps and jumped. He cleared the gap easily, landing hard but stable on the other side. "Throw me the wounded," he called back. And they did. The stretchers were passed across the gap, human hands catching them with careful precision. The who could stand were helped across, jumping into waiting arms. "Your turn, Captain," Ho said. Looked at the gap. The glow of lava was visible at the bottom. One slip and she would fall into fire. "I cannot make that jump." "You do not have to. I am going to throw you." Before she could object, Ho picked her up and hurled her across the gap. She flew through the air, screaming, and landed in Min's arms on the other side. "Safe," the big human said, setting her down gently. One by one, the remaining survivors were thrown across. Then the humans jumped themselves, each one clearing the gap with the practiced ease of creatures born on a world where gravity was just another enemy to overcome. Ho was the last to cross. The ground behind him was collapsing as he jumped, chunks of rock falling into the growing hole. He landed hard, rolling to absorb the impact. "Everyone aboard," he ordered, "now." They rushed into the shuttle. The humans loaded the stretchers with quick efficiency. The walking wounded were strapped into seats. Found herself in a chair near the front, looking out a small window at the hell they were leaving behind. The shuttle's engines roared to life. The whole craft shook as it lifted off, fighting against the volcanic winds that tried to push it back down. "We are clear," the pilot's voice announced. "Entering upper atmosphere. We will be at the iron will in 15 minutes. A cheer went up from the survivors. They were alive. Against all odds, against everything the universe had thrown at them, they were alive. Watched through the window as the burning eye fell away beneath them. The storm they had just escaped was fully visible now, a swirling mass of fire and ash that covered half the moon. If they had been even 5 minutes slower, they would have been caught in it. "You did it," she said softly. Ho dropped into the seat next to her. He was breathing hard. His suit was covered in ash and burn marks, but he was smiling. "We did it," he corrected. "Your people kept moving even when everything told them to stop. That takes strength. Your people carried us. That is what we do." He leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes for a moment. "Your wounded are stable. Says Old will need surgery, but the iron will has the equipment. The child with the burns will recover. Even your pilot should wake up within a day or 2. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She had been so sure they were going to die. She had spent the last 2 days watching her people suffer, knowing that help would never come. But it had come, from the most unexpected source imaginable. "Why do they call you?" she asked. "I have heard the name, but I never understood it." Ho opened his eyes. Because our home world is classified as a Class 12 death world, worse than the moon we just left. Class 12 could not hide her shock. How is that possible? How does anything survive on a Class 12 world? Carefully and together, Ho smiled. Earth is dangerous, but it is our home. The predators taught us to fight. The diseases taught us to adapt. The earthquakes and storms taught us to build strong. And the sheer difficulty of survival taught us that we need each other. No human survives alone. It is not in our nature. So when you heard our distress call, we heard people who needed help. Everything else was just details. The shuttle docked with the iron will. The wounded were rushed to the medical bay, where a full surgical team was waiting. The other survivors were given clean clothes, warm food, and soft beds. Stayed with Old through his surgery, monitoring his vitals and translating for the doctor who was assisting. Worked on repairing the damaged life support systems from the Starlight Wanderer, salvaging what equipment she could. Was given a room near the bridge. It was small but comfortable. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to truly rest. But sleep would not come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the fire, the ash, the impossible gap that the humans had thrown her across like she weighed nothing. There was a soft knock at her door. When she opened it, was standing there with 2 cups of something hot. "I thought you might want company," the young medic said. "I know I always do after a hard mission." Let her in. They sat together, sipping the hot drinks. It was some kind of human beverage, bitter but warming. "We'll survive," said. "The surgery was successful. He will need time to recover, but he will live to see his." "Thank you." The words seemed inadequate, but they were all had. "Thank you for everything." Smiled. "You would have done the same for us." "Would I?" asked honestly. "I do not know. Before today I thought humans were. I do not know what I thought. Dangerous, maybe, frightening." "We can be both of those things," admitted. "Humans are not perfect. We have done terrible things in our history, but we have also done wonderful things. We have learned that survival means more than just not dying. It means helping others survive too." She finished her drink and stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. "Get some sleep, Captain. You are safe now, and tomorrow we will take you home." Watched her go. Then she lay down on the soft bed and closed her eyes. For the first time since the crash, she slept without nightmares. The journey back to space took 3 days. 3 days that changed understanding of the universe forever. She spent much of that time on the bridge of the Iron Will, watching the humans work. They were so different from what she had expected. Captain Ho was not the terrifying warrior of legend, but a quiet man who spent his evenings reading old books and checking on his crew. Was not a savage from a death world, but a gentle healer who remembered the names of every patient she had ever treated. "You seem surprised by us," Ho said one evening, finding at the observation window. "I am," she admitted. "I was raised on stories about humans, terrible stories. They said you were monsters, that your bodies were weapons, that you knew no mercy. Some of those things are true in a way." Ho joined her at the window. "Our bodies are strong because our world demanded it. We have fought many wars because our history taught us violence. But that is not all we are." "I know that now." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars drift past. "What will you tell your people?" Ho asked, "when you return home?" Thought about the question. She thought about Old, recovering in the medical bay, already planning stories to tell his. She thought about little Bora, whose burns were healing faster than anyone had expected. She thought about Sara and Minu and all the others who had been given a second chance at life. "I will tell them the truth," she said. "I will tell them that when no one else would help us, they came. I will tell them that humans walked through fire to save strangers. I will tell them that everything we thought we knew was wrong." Ho smiled, a rare expression on his weathered face. "That might cause problems. Many people are comfortable believing the old stories about us." "Good," said firmly. It should cause problems. My people deserve to know who the humans really are. On the third day, the Iron Will entered space. A welcome fleet met them at the border, 3 elegant ships that escorted the human vessel toward the home world. News of the rescue had spread ahead of them, and already the story was being told across the sector. A human ship had answered a distress call from a Class 7 death world. A human crew had walked into volcanic fire to save civilians, had risked their lives for people they had never met. The news networks were filled with the story. Old prejudices were questioned. Old fears were examined. For many, it was the first time they had ever thought of humans as anything other than monsters. "Captain," a reporter's voice called out as she descended the ramp at the spaceport. Crowds had gathered to see the survivors return. "Captain, can you tell us what happened?" Stopped at the bottom of the ramp. Behind her, the other survivors were being greeted by crying family members. Olds had come to meet him. Little Bora's parents were holding her like they would never let go. "What happened," said clearly, "is that good people saved us. They did not ask for payment. They did not demand recognition. They simply came because we needed help. But they are humans. Are you not afraid of them?" Turned and looked back at the Iron Will. At the top of the ramp, Ho and his crew stood watching. They would not come down. They had explained that this moment belonged to the survivors. The humans would slip away quietly as they always did. "I am not afraid of them," said. "I am grateful to them, and I think our people have been wrong about humans for a very long time." She raised her hand in farewell. Ho returned the gesture. Then the ramp closed and the Iron Will began its slow ascent back into the sky. In the weeks that followed, kept her promise. She told her story everywhere. At news stations and universities, at government meetings and public gatherings. She showed recordings from the rescue, images of humans carrying children through volcanic storms, footage of performing surgery while the ship shook from atmospheric turbulence. "They call their world Earth," she explained to one crowded auditorium. "It is a planet that has tried to kill them every day for millions of years, but instead of becoming cruel, they became strong. Instead of becoming selfish, they became protective. They learned that survival is not just about themselves, it is about everyone." Other survivors added their voices to hers. Sara, now walking with a special brace designed by, spoke about how the humans had never once complained about the danger. Minyu described watching them work together with perfect teamwork, each one trusting the others completely. Little Bora, her burns nearly healed, said simply, "The nice lady told me stories, even when the fire was everywhere. She told me about a princess and a dragon, and she made me feel safe." The galactic community began to take notice. Official inquiries were made. Why were humans willing to go places other species would not? What drove them to take such risks for strangers? A delegation was sent to Earth itself. What they found there astounded them. The planet was indeed a death world, more dangerous than almost any other inhabited world in known space, but it was also beautiful. Vast oceans filled with life, mountains that touched the clouds, forests so thick that light could barely reach the ground. And everywhere humans, building cities at the base of active volcanoes, farming land that flooded every season, living in deserts where rain came only once a year. They did not just survive on their death world, they thrived there. "We asked them why they live in such dangerous places," the delegation leader reported. "They laughed and said that everywhere is dangerous if you look at it the right way. They said the trick is not to avoid danger, but to face it together." Back on, changes were happening. The old stories about humans were being rewritten. Children who had grown up fearing now grew up admiring them. When human ships passed through space, they were no longer avoided. They were welcomed. 1 year after the rescue, received a message from Captain Ho. The Iron Will was returning to the sector, and he hoped to see her again. She met him at the same spaceport where they had parted. He looked the same. A little more gray in his hair, perhaps, but the same kind eyes, the same quiet strength. "You have been busy," he said, gesturing at the news screens around the terminal. Every one of them showed coverage of the growing friendship between and humans. "I told you I would tell the truth. You did more than that. You changed how our people see each other." They walked together through the spaceport. People noticed them, the captain and the human. Some pointed, some whispered, but no one ran away. No one screamed. "Have you been back to the Burning Eye?" asked. "No, but we have rescued 6 more ships in that sector since then. Word got out that humans will answer calls others ignore. Now people know to call us when everything seems hopeless." "Does that bother you, being the ones who are always called for the impossible missions?" Ho thought about it. "No, it is who we are. Every human child grows up hearing stories about people who did extraordinary things when they were needed. We are raised to believe that one person or one small group can make a difference. When we hear a cry for help, answering is not a choice. It is instinct." They reached a small cafe and sat down together. The other customers pretended not to stare, but could feel their curiosity. "I have been thinking about something," she said. "A proposal." "I am listening." "The Galactic Rescue Authority has rules. Class 7 worlds are off limits. Class 8 and above are considered suicide missions, but those rules were written by species who cannot survive in those places." Ho nodded, understanding where she was going. "I want to create a new division," continued. "A joint unit of humans and humans for the dangerous environments, for the coordination and support. We could save people that the current system leaves to die. You would need funding, equipment, training programs. I have already started working on it. The government is interested. The survivors of the Starlight Wanderer have volunteered to help." Ho was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, that rare expression that remembered from the rescue. "You want to turn what we did into something permanent. I want to make sure that no one ever sends a distress call into the void again, believing that no one will answer." He reached across the table and shook her hand. It was a human gesture, one that did not traditionally use, but had learned its meaning over the past year. Agreement, partnership, trust. "The Iron Will and her crew would be honored to be part of this," Ho said. "Then let us begin." That night stood at the observation deck of the spaceport, watching ships come and go. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. Somewhere out there, someone was sending a cry for help into the darkness. But now, those cries would not go unanswered. Now, there were those who would come no matter how dangerous the path, who had turned their difficult heritage into something beautiful. Protectors who had learned that true strength was not about surviving alone. The stars stretched out before her, full of danger and wonder and endless possibility, and for the first time felt that the galaxy was a little less dark than it had been before. Because now, when hope seemed lost and fear ruled the night, there would always be someone coming. There would always answer the SOS. And that new made all the difference.